Well, much has been said, of course, at the memorial service to Nelson Mandela. In fact, according to Dr. Peter Sharples, perhaps there were too many speeches and it went on a bit long. Having said that, with a figure such as Nelson Mandela, it's easy to be inspired and, well, in the words of Barack Obama, to be inspired to want to be a better person. Joining us on the program is Darren Ward from CBM. Darren, I'm probably didn't stay up and watch it live, but in terms of the memorial service, lots of very fitting tributes.
Look, there were, and I guess, I first of all just want to express my thoughts and my prayers for the family of Mandela and for South Africa. I think that it will be an interesting time as a country as they move forward, but if they can remember the spirit and the way that Mandela approached things, I think that, in fact, if we could all remember that, the world would be a better place. I struggle to think of anyone really in modern history who has demonstrated, to me, such godly traits of forgiveness, of love, of acceptance, but of not backing down, as what Mandela has done, and just the example that he is to all of us is huge and something that I think does us all well to stop and reflect. And of course, the service overnight gave us that chance to do that, I guess officially or formally.
Yeah, I mean, the principles such as grace, peace, forgiveness, some people would consider those signs of weakness. In Mandela, we saw that was anything but weakness. This was the strength required to transform his nation.
That's exactly it. And I think that, he once was quoted as saying it is better to lead from behind. And that's what he did. He led in a way that showed humility as a positive trait, that showed grace and a desire for peace, a willingness to listen to the other side. I think another of his quotes that, unless you're willing to work with your enemy, you'll never achieve anything. And what a very, very different way of approaching things. And I think, for us in our work that we're doing with people with disabilities around the world, where so much of the issues that they face are around discrimination, that are around wrong ideas and exclusion. That example of Mandela and what he fought for was just so powerful, not only in terms of how we should treat people who are perhaps different to us, but also what each of us has, whether we are living with a disability or we're not, whether we are black, whether we're white, Muslim, Christian, Jew, whatever, that we need to look at other people first as people and to recognise that they have got something to add to our life, that they have got something to offer, and that we can work together in peace. And I read a quote. I heard of his death, and it just really, stopped me. We were all expecting it, I think, but when it hit, it was still one of those things of, gosh, we have lost someone special. And I spent a bit of time just reading some of his speeches, and there was a quote which he says, "A democracy is an order of social equality and non-discrimination. Our compatriots who are disabled challenge us in a very special way to manifest in real life, those values of democracy." And, we often, in New Zealand, I think, take democracy for granted, our ability to vote, our ability to have freedom, and maybe it's just a chance to stop, sit back and think, actually, how are we living in terms of really reflecting God's love, how we look at other people, and how we give everybody that opportunity to participate.
Those principles of equality and inclusion, I mean, those are things that you and I often talk about, but also, I suppose, added to that with Mandela, the aspect of reconciliation. Let's take those people who were at odds and bring them to peace. Let's bring reconciliation between people who were former enemies, perhaps.
That's exactly it, and it's I think it's just a little bit about how we look at other people, and to me it's about looking at them, we've talked about it before, looking at people through the godly lens of seeing someone before us who has got something to add to our lives, not something to take away. And if we have that approach first, which is how Mandela saw it, we are going to live in a much, much better world, a world which is the way that God would have us look at it. We reflected on Monday in our staff devotional time on Mandela's message of reconciliation, and we looked at it, and I think of probably one of the other huge examples for me of that power of reconciliation, that power of love, and it's where Jesus is talking to the disciples before he knows he's to go to the cross and be crucified. And he gives us that final commandment to love one another. And I think that, we've seen that borne out in the power of that and what it can achieve in Mandela's life.
Mandela, of course, a remarkable individual, but somebody who rose above his circumstances and changed his circumstances around him. Having said that, though, he was one person who responded to a challenge, the challenge for the rest of us, and, well, the words of Barack Obama today, that Nelson Mandela should inspire us to be better people ourselves.
That's exactly it, and I often laugh when I read another of his quotes because, and at times like this, it's very tempting to kind of put a person out there as someone more than human. And Mandela says, I'm not a saint unless you think of saints as a sinner who keeps on trying. And I think that is what we can all do. None of us are perfect, and we just keep on trying. We keep on living in a way that really reflects those values that he had, and I think we can all individually make a difference. And when we all do that, then we make a difference in the world together. No,
perhaps not on the same scale as Mandela, but no. I suppose that's what we're called to do, is let's do the best that we can with the opportunities and grace that we're given.
Yeah, look, my eldest daughter, who is working at the moment as an intern for the Salvation Army in their social policy unit, was asked to write a blog, and she finished it off, well, not all of us are destined to play a role like he did. There is nothing stopping us from following his example and gracefully campaigning for equal opportunity for all. And to me, that sums it up. If we all do that, we are honouring the legacy of Mandela, and more importantly, I think we are living the way that Jesus would have us live.
Darren Ward, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Andrew.